How to be more confident presenting a presentation. In this video, we're going to cover 10 great tips on how to turn you into a more confident presenter. Tip number 1, understand your audience. Who will you be speaking to? What do they already know about the subject? Will they understand any jargon that you intend to use? What sort of mood do you think your audience will be in, and what will their energy level be like at the time of day that you're speaking to them? Start things off well with a great foundation by really understanding your audience. Tip number 2, have a clear purpose for your speech. What is it that you want to achieve with your presentation or your speech? Do you want to inform people on a subject? Do you want to persuade them? Do you want to entertain them or motivate them? Have a specific outcome in mind and ask yourself this: is it realistic for the time that you have available and for the format that you'll be using? Tip number 3, structure your content so that it is logical for your audience. Try to put yourself in their shoes with their level of knowledge and understanding so that it makes sense to them. Remember to keep it simple. Unlike written communication, where your audience can go back and reread things until they understand it, they've just got one go when you're speaking. So don't be afraid to spell things out very, very clearly for them. And lastly, it might be a cliche, but it does work. Go with the tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. Or to put that a little bit more eloquently and simply, introduce, expand, and then summarize. Tip number 4, gain attention with your opening. This is people's first impression of you when you start speaking, so make sure that you make a really great first impression. Think of it like a headline. Its purpose is to gain attention. The rest of your speech is there to maintain that attention. Try to match your audience's energy level when you introduce yourself. You don't want to be too lethargic if your audience is very hyped up and enthusiastic. And also, you don't want to be overly enthusiastic if your audience is very lethargic and half asleep after lunch. If you do, you'll alienate them. Make sure that you memorize and that you really practice your opening line. If you do that, then you're going to enter your presentation full of confidence, and it's going to put you straight into the flow, ready to give a really great presentation that's going to go very well. Tip number 5, use your voice effectively. If you're going to deliver a sleep seminar, then feel free to be very slow and boring and monotone and not use any variation at all in your voice. It'll be brilliant for putting your audience to sleep, but for all other purposes, liven it up a bit. Experiment with using pace, tone, rhythm, and volume, and pauses in your speech. This is especially important if you're reading from notes. It's very difficult to come across as spontaneous and animated in those circumstances, so you really have to work at it. Number 6, control your body. Try to be aware of any unconscious or nervous gestures that you might have. For instance, a lot of people fiddle with jewelry while they're speaking, run their hands through their hair, perhaps shift their weight from side to side. All of these things can be very distracting for your audience. Try to be deliberate with whatever it is that you're doing with your body when you're standing up in front of your audience. Because don't forget that your body is also speaking and conveying a message just as much as you are with your voice. Number 7, connect with your audience. Eye contact is incredibly important. Try to be natural. Imagine yourself in the situation that you're talking to a group of friends. That's exactly the way you talk to an audience, but just on a larger scale. When you deliver a sentence, look at one person in the audience, in the eye, and deliver that sentence. Then when you get to the next sentence, look at somebody else in the eye and deliver the full sentence. After you've delivered a couple of points, scan the room and look at your entire audience to get an idea of how they're reacting. As you become a more accomplished speaker, you'll realize that you're actually having a two-way conversation with your audience and that they are actually giving you a lot of feedback in terms of their eye contact, their facial expressions, and their body language as they respond to you. Tip number 8, manage your time effectively. No one will ever complain that your speech is too short, but everybody remembers the speaker who went on for too long. Be very aware of the time that you have allocated for your speech and stick to it. And if you notice that your audience seems to be becoming a little bit impatient and shifting in their seats, well then you might want to try to shorten or curtail things a little bit. Help your audience by setting expectations as to how long it is that you're going to speak for by using a logical structure for your material. That way they'll understand where you are in your speech or presentation. Make sure that you avoid giving false endings when you're speaking. Nobody likes the speaker who says, "and finally," and then carries on for another 15 minutes. They'll either start throwing things at you or they'll sneak out of the room very quietly without hearing the end. When it comes to preparation, there is no point in staying up all night creating the perfect PowerPoint presentation if you don't practice it. My recommendation would be spend a third of the time that you have available writing and preparing your speech or your presentation, and then spend 2/3 of the time that you have available practicing it out loud and refining it. This one thing is probably going to make the biggest difference to the quality of your presentations. Number 9, be memorable with your closing. Along with your introduction, your conclusion is going to be the thing that the audience remembers most about your presentation. Use your conclusion to recall the purpose of your presentation and spell that out to your audience with a really strong call to action. Make sure to memorize and to really practice your closing so that you're able to deliver it with a lot of confidence and punch. Tip number 10, handle questions effectively. Many people fail to consider how it is that they're going to deal with questions in their presentation. This can unravel a great presentation after it's finished, and it can derail a presentation that's in progress. Along with your introduction and closing, the way that you handle the question and answer session is going to form people's lasting memory of your presentation. As you're preparing for your presentation, consider the questions that your audience might have. Try to incorporate the answers of these into your presentation material so that the questions don't get asked in the first place. Use a logical structure for your presentation as well. That will help your audience to understand where you are in the material and will stop them getting confused and needing to ask questions. If you don't want to be interrupted with questions during your presentation, you can say so to the audience. Tell them that you'll take questions at the end. If you want to give them a polite reason for doing so, tell them that you want to speak to time out of respect to them. That was 10 tips on how to be more confident presenting a presentation. I hope you found it useful. For more great videos, visit our channel page. For details of live webinars and some great courses on presentation skills, visit our website at bullfrey.com.